I'm Steve with Adrenaline Barbecue Company. Today we're making Veal Osso Bucco on the Weber kettle with the slow and sear. Osso Bucco literally translates into bone with a hole. It's traditionally made with veal shanks that are cross-cut, thus exposing that bone and all of the marrow that is hidden inside. There's a lot of muscles and connective tissue in it, so when it is cooked slow, then it just kind of falls apart and becomes incredibly delicious. Usually it's braised, but today we're smoking it on the Weber kettle with the slow and sear, and we're serving it with some mashed potatoes and a Gremolata, which is the traditional topping that goes on Osso Bucco. We got a lot to go over today, so let's just jump right into it. So as always, we started out in the kitchen dry brining our veal shanks. Season with a ½ teaspoon of kosher salt on all sides of each piece of meat per pound. Dry brine that in the refrigerator for about 4 hours up to 24 hours. After that's dry brining for a little bit, you can prepare some of the sides that are gonna go with the Osso Bucco. First, we're gonna handle the mashed potatoes. To start, we just got 3 russet potatoes that we are going to peel, cut into half, and then cut into equal sized dices. Keep them all in a cold bowl of water while you're working with it so the potatoes don't brown. Once they're all cubed, drain out all of that water, pour them into a pot to cook in, and then fill that pot up with cold water to cover the potatoes. Season it with salt, get that onto the stove, bring it up to a boil. Once it's boiling, kind of bring it back down to a little simmer and let those gently cook until they are very soft and fork tender. While they're cooking on the stove, you want to warm up a stick of butter and about a half a pint of cream. Melt that butter. You don't want to boil the butter or anything, you just want to melt it down lightly. Same with the cream, you don't want to boil it, you just want to warm it up. Once the potatoes are nice and soft, you want to drain those from the water, and then using a potato ricer if you have it, or just a potato masher, whatever you got. I find a potato ricer to be the best thing to make mashed potatoes. Run all the cooked potatoes through the ricer and back into the pot you cooked them in, and then you'll see that they instantly start to form a mash. Then you can pour in the butter. Those potatoes are just going to sort of absorb that melted butter, and then once you've added the butter, you can add a little bit of cream at a time until you've reached the consistency you like. Some people like them thicker, some people like them thinner. Check for seasoning, add a little salt if you need, set that to the side and let that stay warm while everything else finishes cooking. The Gremolata is basically just like a citrusy, zesty herb topping that goes on top of the Osso Bucco. The way you make it is by just chopping up some fresh parsley, super fine, sort of as fine as you can chop it. Get it into a bowl, then zest 2 lemons of all of their zest, and then the same with 1 orange or a few clementines if you have. Then grate in 1 clove of garlic, add a tablespoon of olive oil, pinch of salt, and then mix that up, and then that's going to be the topping that goes on top of the Osso Bucco. So we took our beef Osso Bucco that's been dry brining out of the refrigerator. We patted it dry, coated it in olive oil, and then heavily seasoned it with pepper on all sides. And that is what you see here. These are ready to go onto the kettle. Just waiting for the smoke to clear, for the kettle to get up to temperature, and then we're gonna put our Osso Bucco on there and start getting them cooked. Onto the grill. So the kettle's floating around 250 degrees. We're gonna cook this just until all that pepper that we seasoned it with is set to the meat. It's ready to wrap. A little more than a cup of carrot, celery, and onion diced, and some garlic cloves. Create a little bed for the Osso Bucco to cook on. A little beer. About a cup of beef stock. Some fresh rosemary and thyme. Now we're gonna cook that until the internal temperature reaches about 200 degrees in the thickest shank. And once it reaches the temp we like, we're all done and we're gonna pull it off of the grill. So I'm just gonna let these guys cook and then we're gonna finish up in the kitchen. Let's see how we did. And we're gonna turn all of these juices into a nice little sauce. And it's just really simple. Just gonna throw it all into a blender. And I'm gonna blend this. Now we're just gonna get it into a pan and we're gonna reduce that. So there you have it. Veal Osso Bucco, got a little smoke on it. That sauce picks up a lot of that smoke from the meat cooking in it. The meat is rich, and then we have that nice Gremolata on top, and then you have this bone marrow that you throw into the mix. And then we have some nice, creamy, delicious mashed potatoes that tie it all together and give it this nice bed to sit on. It's just a piece of meat that really needs to be cooked down to the point where you break those connective tissues down because there's so many interconnected muscles. As always, the link for this recipe will be in the description. That's all I have today. I'm Steve with Adrenaline Barbecue Company, where we didn't invent the kettle, we perfected it.